Are we live yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Just sent you the link, Tracy.
Okay, I'm waiting on it to come through. Okay, I'm gonna go verify that it is working. Okay, you're good to go.
All righty. The meeting of the Clinical Laboratory Personnel Advisory Committee is called to order at 15:35 on August 27th, 2024. We will have a roll call for members. Gay Brunson as committee chair. Michelle Werner is absent. Jessica Laster.
Here.
Nadlin Rideau.
Here.
Belinda Carmen.
Here.
Larry Broussard. Absent. Melissa Hamilton.
Here.
Yolanda Bennett.
Here.
Beverly Ogden. Absent. Tabitha Whip.
Here.
Richard Bridges. Absent. Angela Foley.
Here.
All right. And if the other attendees that are staff members or guests, would you please identify yourself?
Patricia Welton, Executive Counsel for the Board of Medical Examiners.
Felicia Johnson, Allied Health Clinical Lab Supervisor.
Lauren Sennett, attorney for the board. Paula Pigford, medical board investigator.
Ronald Kayak, Medical Board Investigator.
Claudette Ashford, analyst.
I'm Dave Vicknair, licensing analyst.
And Tracy Morrow, IT tech for the board.
Patsy Jarrow, Director of Clinical Laboratory Personnel.
And hey, Larry, yes, we have one more member here, Larry Broussard.
Okay.
And we do have a quorum.
We do.
The agenda was posted as per regulations. Are there any additions to our agenda? No. Okay. Public comments may be made at publiccomment@lsbme.la.gov. We have someone monitoring the public comment email, and as they come up, they will be introduced into our session to be acknowledged and heard. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from March 21st of 2024. I noticed that in the minutes, we did not list who had motioned and seconded for us to leave executive session on that day. I thought it was Jessica and Tabitha. Do y'all remember?
I believe I seconded it.
Okay. So I think Jessica, if we'll add that to our minutes on voting to leave executive session on that day, the motion was made by Jessica and was seconded by Tabitha. Do we have any other additions to the minutes?
Say something.
Ma'am?
So I did not do the minutes, obviously, because I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't actually have, whoever needs to add that to the minutes, and then I guess maybe Jacinta can do it. I don't know, and then send them on if you want it for completeness sake.
No, I'm not gonna do the minutes. It's gonna have to be somebody from your advisory committee.
Okay, well, I don't have the,
I think I might have done the minutes. So what I'll do, Angela, is I'll send them to you, and or I can make that change, but I'm not really on the committee either. So,
Well, if you send them to me, I'll make the change and then send it to Jacinta.
okay,
Okay.
I'll do that. All right.
All right. Do we have any other comments on the minutes from March? If not, I would like to hear a motion and second to approve the minutes with that addition.
I'll approve. It's Tabitha.
Tabitha made a motion. Second,
Yolanda.
Yolanda second. All those in favor of approving the minutes from our last meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is House Resolution 262. That is also the same as item number 4. So when we get to item number 4, we will skip over it.
Excuse me, Guy, why don't you skip that until Alexa gets here? I think she knows more about it.
Okay, sure. Well,
And so she may want to speak to it, so we could come back to it.
okay, that will be fine. Probably we need. Oh, hey, Alexa.
Oh, she's here. Okay, never mind.
Okay. Let me mark her here. So has everyone read that resolution? I'm gonna read the topic. It says, request the Louisiana State Department of Health to work with the Louisiana State Board of Medical Examiners to study and make recommendations to establish a more efficient process for licensing non-diagnostic technicians. So this resolution is not complaining that they're licensed, and it's not asking that they not be licensed. It's just asking for the board, along with the LDH, to make a more efficient process for licensing. What are these people licensed as? Hey, Dr. Van.
Patricia, maybe we'll start and then I'll follow up about what's going on. You want to start, Patricia?
So this is just a continuation of the push of the last 2 or 3 years to reduce barriers to access to healthcare professions. To be frank, I don't exactly know what particular class of licensee they're talking about. If Alexa has more information about that, certainly glad to hear it. To our knowledge, there are no particular barriers with regard to clinical lab personnel at the present time. So what we'll have to do if we don't have that information from any of you colloquially, we'll have to circle back with the author and find out what problem he was expecting us to try to solve.
Well, I work closely with the lobbyist what this is about is the plasmapheresis centers. And Alexa and I talked about this during the meeting, or during the session earlier. The plasmapheresis centers want to employ, number one, the blood drawing people at that level only, but they want them to do a clear test that is not waived. And that is a screening for total protein. Do you remember that discussion, Miss Alexa?
Yes, they are performing total protein in the plasma centers to ensure that the candidates are qualified donors. So they have to meet FDA requirements. And the total protein that they perform is moderate complexity. So they're all under CLIA certificates for moderate complexity testing. All of these individuals, to my knowledge, all of the ones that we go in and survey, they're all lab assistants. Most of them are also phlebotomists, whether they're licensed or not in the facility. They're typically acting as phlebotomists and screening these donors, but they're performing the moderate complexity test. So they have lab assistant license in the facility. And based on our reading of this resolution, they're asking for LDH to review the licensing processes for LSBME for lab assistants, which is, as far as I know, I don't know the ins and outs of the process, but follows the same processes as every other profession that's licensed by LSBME, including all of the different laboratory as well as other lanes of practice, physician, acupuncture, all of them. They all have the same process to obtain licensure. These lab assistants, the number that are non-diagnostic technicians, which is what this bill is concerning, they kind of get lumped all together as lab assistants. So you have lab assistants who are working in physician office labs performing moderate complexity testing, as well as these non-diagnostic technicians. But that term is not really a term, at least in licensure. A non-diagnostic technician is not applying for a lab assistant license any differently than anyone else. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, more processes for the board, but I'm not sure how you would even differentiate those applying as a non-diagnostic technician for a lab assistant license versus anybody else.
We did show them how to a very quick pathway to getting these non-diagnostic or just plain phlebotomists to be able to do these tests and draw the blood. And that is a physician, when present and supervising, can delegate that authority to anyone. And he is responsible, or she is responsible. They don't want to put a physician there, okay? They don't want to even put a specialist of any type, high-level licensee in clinical lab. They just want their phlebotomist to do this test that is moderate complexity. And I've tried to explain to them that that's the rub. We can't allow that under the law. It's not just state law, it's federal law. But what we have to understand is that we are only one of about 8 states that license clinical labs. The rest of the states don't even license clinical lab people. So again, if they want to do that, we've shown them multiple pathways, and they have a pathway that they could possibly follow. And I showed them that, which is what they did a year ago, session before in 2023, when they allowed the phlebotomists to be trained and licensed by trained but not licensed by us, by the laboratory that employed them, but it still didn't get them around the CLIA issue. So that's what they want us to look at, and I'm happy. Matter of fact, I just got an email back from Miss Bethany, who is one of the attorneys there, and I suggested, quite frankly, Alexa, I apologize, but I suggested she talk to you to set up that meeting so that we can explain it all to them at LDH. And we'll be, I'm happy to look. I'm trying hard to make it even easier for people to get licensed. But if we set criteria and then they don't provide it, I can't give licenses. So, or if they have a problem with a criminal background check, it delays the license. But we are trying very hard to expedite this. I meet with my people regularly. What are you doing to shorten the times? Can we do to shorten the time? And we're working on a new system that will shorten the time dramatically. But we're just getting ready to pilot. So I'm not really sure it's going to work until we pilot it with the doctors, and we're going to see where that goes. But that's what this is about. They really want to do an end around on CLIA, quite frankly.
Well, it sounds like it, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Why are they considered non-diagnostic technicians if they're performing a diagnostic test?
No, they consider them non-diagnostic technicians because they are only licensed as phlebotomists. They want them to do a CLIA moderate complexity test. And I explained to them that those people can't do it. This is a term that they put into the mix, not us.
Okay.
So non-diagnostic technician did come from they've used that term in other states. So they're looking at these individuals are performing a moderate complexity test that CMS has said it's under CLIA. You have to have a CLIA certificate to do it because you are taking a sample from a human and determining whether or not they can submit to a procedure. So it's a clinical test. They're trying to move away from the diagnostic portion because this result is not going to be charted for their general practice physician to diagnose them or to determine treatment going forward. And so they're trying to separate that from clinical testing that's happening in traditional clinical spaces. Again, that language isn't applicable to the licensure laws in Louisiana as they stand now. That is a term that is used in other states. For example, California. Most of those states also license the facility as well. So they have added restrictions from the state that are applying to the facility, which we do not have in Louisiana. There's only CLIA and state personnel. I don't know the number of non-diagnostic technicians that are licensed as lab assistants. But I do know there are a lot of lab assistants that are in clinical testing sites, but there's no way to differentiate those two in the current laws and rules.
Okay, so, there's really no action for us to take on that then.
No, the next step is that Miss Bethany at the LDH will get this meeting together, hopefully with Alexa and I, and we'll explain to them the situation, and they'll decide whether we need to change something. They'll make recommendations, and we'll report back, or they'll say there's no way around the requirement that you be licensed to do this kind of test. And again, we'll see what LDH says, and LDH will kind of make the final decision. And I think, I know my board will go along with what LDH said. My president is set to work with the LDH as much as possible.
So as far as from an LDH perspective, we've had internal meetings because LDH doesn't license laboratories. They're not really sure whose lane this is even going to be, because ultimately licensure is the responsibility of LSBME, and it's for LDH to review the processes and tell the board how to license. Nobody's really sure whose lane that's going to be or how we're going to have those conversations. But if Dr. Van, if we're have a point of contact to have a meeting, as much as we're reading, we're looking at the processes that are in place now, and I guess how to license efficiently.
Yes.
Necessarily changing any of the nomenclature or who should and shouldn't be licensed. That's already determined. It's just efficient processing for licensure, I guess.
Patricia, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say at this point, we're all just sitting waiting for direction from LDH and the administration as to their desires or guidance or request that there be some kind of carve out for these individuals to change the requirement. It's not something that we would do without being instructed to do that, because the clear requirement does appear to be rational and reasonable given the nature of the tasks that are being performed. But as Dr. Van said, this particular administration and the department, as it's been reconstituted, is very active in the realm of occupational licensing. So we really just need that meeting with not necessarily even the foot soldiers in LDH, but more the administration of LDH telling us that a different direction is their desire.
But the resolution, all the resolution is asking for is a more efficient process. They're not asking to exempt people in the resolution.
Right, and the process is as efficient as it can get. There are not economies of process that we're aware of that we've identified that could be made. The reality is they want a carve out, even if it's not strictly stated. So it's just going to have to be a sit down with Dr. Van and Alexa and anybody else to say what problem are you really trying to solve, and we can't do that by rule.
They want to hire somebody and put them to work.
Right. Yeah. But that would have to come, we would have to get a sense that that is what the administration is wanting, before we would make a move to do that, as far as have this whole group of people under different standards than everybody else.
Okay.
And I would like to ask this committee to talk about some efficiencies of licensing after we finish this discussion, because I have some questions for you all.
Okay. Well, that is item number 5, issues with granting licenses. So let's finish up number 2. Number 2 is Alexa and Dr. Van are going to meet with LDH. We'll just wait and hear back on the next meeting. So let's jump to number 5, which is issues with granting licenses. Hey, Dr. Bridges.
Okay. We can expedite things in a number of ways. There is instead of chasing down transcripts and chasing down accredited schools, I have made contact with the MTASCP people, and I'm contacting the other 2 certifying agencies. And if they will certify as when they give their certification, for example, if you're a respiratory therapist and you get the NBCRT, they've already verified the transcript in the school. And if the MTASCP and the other 2 are doing that, we don't need to get that. That's 2 things I don't have to get from people if you approve me. But what that does is it eliminates temporary licenses for people who haven't passed the test.
One of them doesn't, Dr. Van.
I'm sorry, what?
AAB does not, you do not have to have a degree to take the AAB. I mean, they've got different requirements. AMT and ASCP do, but I mean, that doesn't guarantee they have a degree. Well,
again, what we can do is we can start. And the other thing we can do, and I'm actually piloting this very shortly, had a meeting today with our developers. What we're going to do is front load the application so that when the application process opens online, you will have to upload these various documents before you can pay to close the application. Because as I've told y'all repeatedly, time and time again, they don't respond to our emails. They don't respond to the things we ask them to provide. So if we front load the application, really the only thing that they then have to do is as soon as they pay, we turn around and send them an email saying that this is your form you have to take to IDEMA, pay your money and get your fingerprints done so we can get your criminal background check. And I will tell you that it used to be 5 to 7 days. It's coming back in 2 to 4 and 5 days. So sometimes it's less than three days we're getting these back now. So that's going to shorten a lot of things. But if we can put all of those requirements that we chase down, that they have to submit them before they even pay for their application, and we start processing, it will speed things up dramatically. But again, it cuts out, we'd have to do it for the AAB people and do it, but we can bypass the other ones. And that's one of the things we've talked about putting in the law and or the rules, is saying unless AAB does a better job, maybe we should drop them. Okay. But again, that's something that's a philosophical construct that we need to not debate here. But I want to tell you what we're trying to do to shorten it. And if you agree for MTASCP and the other agency other than AAB,
AMT.
I'm sorry.
AMT is the one.
I'm sorry, I didn't get I forgot the
AMT.
AMT.
Yeah.
I think then we can shorten all of those and move them along much faster.
Yeah.
But again, that would mean no temporary work permits or no temporary licenses until they pass the certifying exam.
Can
How do
I,
you feel about that?
can I speak? Can I
Go ahead,
speak?
Jessica. Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, Dr. Van, ASCP is taking at least a month to evaluate transcripts and issue their certification. So we're trying to get these students in the workplace as soon as they graduate. So we can't wait on ASCP to validate all that for them to start their licensure if you get rid of that temp license.
Okay, well, just remember that if we don't do that, then I still have to get if it's taken MTASCP to a month, it's going to take me a month because I got to get it from them.
I disagree because we as programs, I'm talking about a program, I don't know, I'm pretty sure hospitals do this too, hospital based. I fill out a verification form that I mail direct, that's signed by the registrar's office saying when their degree is going to be conferred the minute they're done with their program requirements. And they already have their background check and it's taken 2 to 3 days. And I'm sending in that they're done. And then they have to supply to LSBME that they have registered and scheduled an exam. So why can we not have a temp license issued then?
Again, we have to get it from the applicant. Okay, when the applicant has to get it,
What do you have? What do you have to get from the applicant?
the
for a temp
transcript.
license?
We have to verify the school and the transcript. Now, if the school wants to send it automatically to us, but then if they send it to us and there's no application in process, we won't know where to put it. So that's why I'm saying.
Okay, then why do you collect a statement from program directors saying they completed the program if you're waiting on that transcript?
We don't
take
wait
either
on the
one,
transcripts,
but
we
we
don't.
have to get it.
Yeah, I know
We
you
take
don't.
either-
That's why I
We
sent.
don't, Jessica.
I didn't think so. So I send that program verification the day they're done, and I still have students a month and 2 months later not getting their temp license.
Jessica,
And they're paying for it.
Jessica, did they have an open application when you sent it?
Yes, sir.
How do we know?
And they
I'll be happy
paid.
to check names.
Well, you can check names. They do. They pay it.
Okay, again, there are other requirements that we have to get, okay? And these are requirements that I'm happy to go over with you all. And if you all want to abandon any of those requirements, we can make a recommendation to the board.
I
But
mean,
again-
are there other program directors online? How long is it taking ASCP to validate your students' transcripts? Because it's taken mine at least a month for ASCP to validate their transcripts from ULM.
I know sorry, Elizabeth Duck, when I was at a hospital-based program, we had students in the same situation months, had everything validated, had open cases, and it took at least 3 months for them to get their temporary license.
Dave, are you on the line?
He was.
No, I guess he's,
There he is.
Dave, you want to run through the documents we need for that, for everybody? I don't want to miss anything, but you want to run through the documents that we are asking the clinical lab people to provide for us? I think I have a PowerPoint that'll list them if you can't do it. I'll be looking for a PowerPoint.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go to the checklist real quick and
I can do it if he can't.
Okay.
Patrick,
Patsy, go ahead.
can't you speak to this a little bit on delays in granting licenses?
Yes, and that's why.
And I'm not just speaking about delays. I have students not getting a temp license at all and being told there's no need and we're just going to grant your full license. So they've paid $65 and waited over a month or more and didn't even get their temp license when they had everything because we're waiting on scores. So I don't know what the purpose of the temp license is if we're going to wait on a score.
We don't wait on a score for a temp license. I'll tell you, Jessica, I know you believe everything your students tell you, but some of the ones that we have had complaints from, things have been missing and they're notified, and some of them have been notified multiple times that this thing was missing. And if there's one thing missing, that's it. You know?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna sign it if there's a piece missing.
Well, it's just it's hard to believe that every time, because when I usually ask, it gets approved like that same day.
Can I
Alright,
jump
So-
in? Can I
Is
jump
some-
in just for a second? Just as an example, one of the people I want to speak to you about tomorrow, after I contacted him today, he emailed to me today his confirmed examination date today. And his application is due to expire today, 6 months. It's been in the works for 6 months. He emailed that to me today. So there's
Can
no
we-
way we could issue anything to him.
No, and I'm not saying every one of them comply with everything.
Right. But
But I
it's
do
gonna
have
be,
some that do comply with everything. Like I see their dashboard. I sign in on their dashboard and it's still not, they're not getting their temp
okay,
licenses.
well,
And I
Okay.
know if we can't talk on here about specific ones, I am free to, we can sit down and look at them, but I can promise you, I mean, we just graduated 21 and some of them got their temp license when they didn't even have everything submitted. And then some did not.
Well, I don't know who those are because I sign off on all of those. And I have a checklist. If it's something's missing, it doesn't get signed.
If I may interrupt, please.
Ms. Ashford, go ahead.
Okay, so your comment is about some of the students not getting their temp license. You're signing into their dashboard. The
I'm
emails the emails do not go to the dashboard. What I'm going to suggest is please ask them to let you see their last email, which will have more detail of what we're asking for, so that we
Okay.
can process them. Thank you very
Now-
much for your time.
Doesn't the dashboard show the deficiencies though?
No,
That's what I usually see is their dashboard with their deficiencies.
Unfortunately, there is a glitch in the system that allows the applicant to clear all deficiencies, which may not be compliant. And then they turn around to you and say, oh, look, everything is done, but they cleared it on their end. We have not.
The other thing,
So that's why I'm
Jessica,
gonna
is
suggest that you check, please request their email so that you can have a better idea of what we're requesting from them. Thank you for your time.
and I have that PowerPoint up if you want to go through it.
the other thing, Jessica, is that if they happen to be sent to investigations, it's gonna slow everything down because we don't do anything until it comes back. Like
Yes,
if they
ma'am.
have anything on their, on their background check or anything they put on their oath, it has to go to investigations, and that slows things down a lot. Now, I know my students, they don't always tell you that part.
No,
just
they
wanna know
don't.
why they didn't get their temporary permit.
And I will tell you that we are we have started designing a methodology to make that more efficient. We're going to take some of those out of the realm of investigations and put them in the realm of licensing. We're working on how to make that more efficient for everybody. But again, that's not yet done. And if I have an opportunity to share a screen, I would like to, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so
Yes.
for all classes of license, they got to create their LAMED online system. And that's when they should make sure they put anytime their email address changes or their phone number or address changes, they should update that anytime to get the basic personal information, the application fee. And then we send it to the new app queue, which the licensing analysts get involved in. Deficiency letter is sent detailing what materials are still needed. As things move, they either go back to the deficiency queue, and monthly letters or emails are sent out, monthly emails. When a document is sent, it's uploaded as the applicant proceeds, and the application is completed. But what Ms. Ashford was alluding to was they go in and say, I sent it, and then it never gets to us, okay? And, unfortunately, we have to get it for us to be able to clear it. They've sent it, but we don't get it. And then the app moves to the directed queue. And once it's completed, the time from complete application to granting we set our standard as 10 working days, okay? But it's the time that it sits in these steps that really is what's going on, okay? And again, we're going to try and shorten the stuff with regard to yes answers on attestations. But the big problem we get is they don't answer yes to the attestation. Then it comes to us that something happened in the criminal background check. And then that's going to be going to investigations. And that's where it becomes, what were they trying to hide? And we have to get letters from them and that kind of stuff. So again, urge them to be forward. And we clearly state in the application, if you have ever, even if it's been expunged, tell us about it. If you've ever been expungement, tell us about it. Because that way we'll be able to match what's in the FBI database with what they tell us. And the problem you need to understand is the FBI doesn't expunge anything. So if you got that DWI when you were 17 and it was expunged, the rest is still in the database of the FBI. And you just have to say, I got a DWI when I was 17. I went to court. It was expunged and I've never had another. And then sign your attestation page. And then that can process through very quickly in our future system, I believe. But right now, when you get these differences of what's in the attestation and what's in the criminal background check, that's a red flag for us. It's got to generally go to investigations. We're going to try and close those loops. But again, the general causes of licensure, let's talk about that. They'll start the app, but not pay. Okay. Now, that's a problem, because if they don't pay, I can't process. Okay. And nothing happens. If they don't pay, it doesn't happen. And then we don't get the required materials or documents in a timely way, as I've alluded to, and the transcript issues. We talked about specifics. We talked about them, the yes answers, criminal background checks, and then again, proof of citizenship. Okay. So for example, you may have somebody that's on a J-1 visa in your training program, but now when they go out to work, they can't work on a J-1 visa. So we have to have the proper citizenship papers to work. Requires proof of a document verifying they have the valid permission of the government to live and work in the United States. And then, of course, legal names and changes are dates. For example, Sally Smith puts the application in as Sally Smith, but when we get her criminal background check and things like that, it doesn't show up. Turns out she was married before and she didn't change her name. Okay, so we have to make sure that all of those agree. We've also done away with pictures. They don't have to send us a picture anymore. Okay, we're doing everything we can to slow down, to make this process move as fast as we can. But again, I think that if you want to remove some of these requirements, we're happy to put together a recommendation on behalf of this committee to the board and have the board say, you know what, we don't want those. That's a good idea. Do away with that. But I think we would not have to chase, if you don't want to wait till they take their test, again, then you remember the temporary licenses will have to exist. And I think temporary licenses are a problem, but if y'all want to keep them, y'all can keep them.
I didn't say don't wait till they take their test. I said don't wait until ASCP evaluates their transcript. I'm not opposed with them taking their tests and waiting on their results, but ASCP right now will not let you send results until they have verified the transcript from the institution, and it is taking them weeks.
And the ASCP what we're saying is, if you have your certification from ASCP or AMT, we grant the license without worrying about transcripts. But if you want us to, go along the way we're going, we're happy to keep it going.
But we have no way to validate that. They're not going to release that information until they have evaluated a transcript. And then the student has to pay more money to ASCP to get that sent. So they can't even reschedule a retest until they've evaluated a transcript now.
Well, maybe they're saying something. Maybe they're saying something we need to listen to. But again, it's your recommendation to us to change it will be brought to the board in any way, shape that you want to bring it.
Dr.
Is
Van,
there,
I'm
it-
sorry, Dr. Van, would you share your PowerPoint with the committee? I mean, like, would you email it to us and then maybe as a committee at our next meeting, we could be better educated and discuss the
I'll share it with the committee. It's not, it is, as you're now part of our board by being on this committee, that is who I'm sharing it with. The board are people and employees of the agency. So again, this is not for you to share with anybody else, but you can, I'll send this to everybody.
and then we'll put that on the agenda for next time to discuss requirements for each license.
and then is there any way to pull a sample of the last 3 or 4 months and check the actual time frame it's taken for their and what they were lacking so we can see that? Because I sit down with my students and I spend hours with them. I mail their documents and I can't believe that all of them have, I mean, I go through what you just said. If you've ever been arrested, you better mark yes. And we're still I mean, this is happening repeatedly every year about this time. We do not have graduates getting their license in a proper time frame. So I think we really need to look at what the holdups are and not
We are
just
looking,
say they're
again, I am meeting with my licensing people on a regular basis, trust me. And these are what they are telling me, okay? And I'm sharing it with you. We have numbers, we can give you those numbers. But again, some of those numbers will have names attached. And so if we put it in, it'll have to be in an executive session. If you don't want names attached, I can do without names and we can do that in public session.
that's fine. How can we get the glitch on the website fixed? Because if they can just click, I mean, if you have something that says it's a deficiency, they shouldn't be able to just click resolved.
Well, again, we trusted people to say that we designed the system in such a way that we say they sent it to us. We start looking for it. If we don't get it, we can undo it. Okay. We can undo it, but we want to, I mean, are you telling me that we can't trust these applicants?
No, I'm saying, why are they able to click that it's not deficient anymore? Why wouldn't just LSBME be able to click that it's deficient or not? Don't let
We can
them
certainly
click
turn
it
that
away.
off. We can certainly turn that off. But again, give me a recommendation to do so from the committee, and I'm happy to do it because somebody's going to say, well, I want that on. I want to be able to show you that I did what I'm supposed to do.
I think only the person who's analyzing their case should be able to say they submitted that.
Well, I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with it. Give me a formal recommendation and we'll make it part of policy.
Do we need to have a vote on this as a committee?
Dave wants to say something.
Yeah, I'd
Dave?
like to suggest that if we're gonna make a change to the way their dashboards work, that we make the dashboard deficiency lists more of a to-do list for them and not have it directly affect our system. If they could use it as a to-do list, and as they complete it, check it off, but leave it all there. And not have what they do to that list affect our system. If we can make any changes, I think that might help.
Well, it really doesn't affect our internal processing at all. Okay. It just
No,
tells
except
them
that it removes the deficiencies from
Right.
their dashboard.
right.
So do the analysts use this same dashboard?
They
No.
use both sides of the dashboard. They see both sides, what the applicant said that they did and what we have not received or received.
But
I
we
don't-
can,
I don't
what
think
what
they-
we do in the system controls what actually comes off of their deficiency list. So if we can make it so that the dashboard list would not affect the actual system and the actual deficiency list, then it could be more of a to-do list for them.
Well, what we can do
to
is we
keep
can,
track.
there are some things we can work around, but I need a recommendation from you all so that what they are going to see is not what they've submitted, but what we have not
What
received.
you have,
I would like to make a recommendation to adjust the dashboard to reflect what is deficient at LSBME and not what they have submitted, because I mean, the email address may have been incorrect. It may not have went through, but I would like that dashboard to actually reflect what they're deficient on.
We'll make it happen.
But I mean, does everybody else agree? There's other people on this committee.
If anybody objects or has any other committee member objects, please speak up.
I just have one question. I don't have any objections, but Jessica, that still won't solve the
Oh
problem
no,
about the BOC not verifying their transcripts? Is that something new that the BOC has done? I thought
Well, they've always done that. They don't send out a score report until they have a transcript.
and they have a transcript, like ULM's electronic system. We can see when they have received the transcript in our system. So they could have it for weeks, but they have not processed it. And since COVID, it's gotten worse. And many program directors have complained, and they're saying they're trying to work on it. So it's gotten a lot worse since COVID.
It has.
Well,
But
I mean,
no,
we can do everything that y'all are suggesting here, but if
Not gonna change
the
it.
major hangup is the BOC not verifying transcripts or taking a month or 2 months to verify transcript, I mean, nothing we do on our end is gonna help.
It does though. Many of my students, not all of them, pay the extra money for temp license. And Miss Patsy just said the temp license does not wait on the transcript or the ASCP scores.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, the temp license is the only reason the temp license doesn't get, if they have everything done, they'll get the temp license. So if they're not
Correct.
getting them, something is missing from their application. As soon as they get them, I mean, if everything else is there except their score, they get the temporary license. I mean,
And if we do away with the temp license, they won't be able to pay for it.
And they will not get a license until at least a month after their test, unless ASCP gets better.
When
Right.
ASCP says they have met the requirements for certification, they will get their license.
Correct. And our labs willing to wait that long after they graduate, take the test and wait? And several of my students registered, they're 42 days ahead, and we're not able to schedule an exam for at least 2 weeks after they were able to. So we're about 6 weeks out of them starting to work.
Dr. Van, I've got a question.
Sure.
Why, if we go back to the front loading,
Yes.
can they get a temporary license if they front load everything and get some attestation from the school that they've completed their degree and it will be issued on such and such a date?
I send that in, Dr. Broussard.
we
I
get
send
that.
it in. And that's what I don't understand. If you have a program director sending it in and their background checks cleared, I've seen we have many and they're not getting done. Something is happening.
well, I mean, I don't sign them until they have a date from ASCP to take the test.
And that's included too. That is another checklist thing. They have to have a date and they
Right.
send their,
They don't
do
have a date. The reason we do that is some of them don't plan to take it. They'll just work for 3 months and, we don't have a date. We don't really, they don't even have to take it. And then they want to come, they fail it. Then they want another 2 times, which we don't allow.
well, I tell them
6 months to get a temporary.
they know they have to show that date. And if they don't show that date, they're not getting their temp license.
They won't. That's right.
But I think what would be best is if we form I don't mind helping. And like Gay said, on the next committee, looking at that and presenting, I just know there's several that my students that did not get their temp license at all and had everything submitted. And this is not the first year this has happened. This has been happening repeatedly. So I'm just speaking up, and I have many labs calling me saying, why can we not fix this? Because many of these labs are getting outdone with this process and don't even want licensure anymore because it's preventing them from having people work.
All right, Jessica, I need you to do two things for me. Send me 10 names of those examples and
Yes,
let me
sir.
research them. Send it to my email at the office. Let me research them. I'll get back to you. And if when we put together what we're going to go with, and you all tell us if you want to have temporary licenses or not, we'll put together the whole list because we're going to front load this eventually. And it's my hope that it'll be front loaded in the next 8 months. And that way and then when we're also going to be having a system where we're going to start calling people. Okay. So make sure they tell them to put their right phone numbers, because if they put, and let me just tell you I'll give you a perfect example of what happens when they don't put their exact email address or somebody else's email address like yours, who's trying to help them, Jessica. This happened. I get a call from a doctor who actually called the legislator. The legislator called my president. The president called me and said, help this doctor out. This is an orthopedist group, physicians, okay? They say, well, we've been trying to get Dr. So-and-so licensed, but we can't get him licensed. I said, let me pull up his file. Well, we need the following bits of information. Well, how does he know? I said, well, we sent him an email in January, February, March, April, and May. It's coming up on 6 months, and we're probably going to have to stop it. Well, where are you sending them to him? Well, he told us to send him to this email address. Well, that's my office's credentialing office email address. I said, well, then maybe your office is letting him down, not us. Okay.
Yes,
So,
sir.
And again, I think the important thing is I don't care if they share their dashboard, but I do care if they're giving you their password.
They are in front of me every time logged in. I do
Okay.
not have their password.
I understand. And all I want you to be able to understand is if y'all, and I'm happy to I may move on that recommendation without you, but I'd love for you to get a recommendation to say that what they can see on their dashboard is only what we have processed, not what they said they sent us.
You
Okay,
want me to?
Yeah, go ahead and state it that way.
I would like to adapt the dashboard to only show what the LSBME has received for an applicant and list their deficiencies of what the LSBME has received.
So it's going to be what the applicant can see on their dashboard is only what we have processed, not what they said they sent us.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
I can make that happen.
Okay, do we need, what's committee folks, do we need to make a subcommittee to look at the process so that we can make a recommendation at the next?
What I'd like to do is let me get the physicians and surgeons front loading done. And then we're going to be coming to you all with what data points you want to keep. And then we're going to front load CLP after we do the physicians. I'll make that commitment to you, but I've got to get the front load on the physicians first, and then the CLPs will be second. But understand that if you tell me you want a transcript, and that transcript comes from the student and not the school, it's not going to be accepted as valid. So then what will happen is we'll be sending them another letter saying, this is not what you needed to be sent, but we'll start at the process. But if it's what we asked for, they'll have everything they need to process the application and move it through quickly. That's the goal.
Okay.
So how long do you think that'll take?
Well, Jessica, I hope we can get it done in 6 months.
Okay. I was just wondering how soon it'll come back to us. I was just curious on your timeline.
Oh, I think it's going to come back to you. Again, I don't know how often y'all going to meet, but let me see how I do with the physicians, because we had the corporate developers here today. I met with them. They understand the time sensitive nature of it, and we're in the process of getting this done. And you will be the second group I do. I'll make that commitment to you.
All right, guys,
I'll get names to you, Dr. Collada.
Please.
Are we ready to move on to another topic? We've got 30 minutes.
and I've got to exit. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Jessica.
Okay.
Thank you, Jessica.
Patsy, can I ask a question about the temporary license again?
Sure.
From what Jessica's saying, the holdup on that is ASCP scheduling a date.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't grant a temporary permit until I have a date.
Okay.
Because some of them don't even schedule it.
Right.
And I don't want, I mean, we're already letting them work without being certified. And if they haven't even scheduled the test, they probably don't even intend on taking it anytime soon. You know, it allows them to work without a license for too long.
Do we know if that delay is because they haven't applied to ASCP, or is it because ASCP takes a while and says we need the diploma before we can schedule a date?
No, that they don't require a diploma before they schedule a date.
So
They require the program director to verify that they've completed all the necessary steps to get a diploma.
Okay.
Can I ask this, so they don't require verification of transcript to schedule the test?
No.
Okay.
They're asking
They
for the
get that from the
transcript to
program
get the
director.
score.
The transcript is for them to get their score back.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's when they get their certification, when the MTASCP or the AMT have gotten all the data that they need to certify them. And that's when they say, hey, they have an acceptable transcript. They have graduated from an acceptable program.
Yes, and they have passed the
And they
exam.
passed the exam.
Right.
And that's it. And then that's it. Then they get a full license. But I mean, they can't get the temporary without
Scheduling.
everything else but a score.
Okay, well, let's move on. Item number 3 on the agenda is update on the rules revision and other laws affecting clinical lab personnel. One item, for sure was Act number 769 regarding fentanyl testing. Did everybody read that? The government has decided that any minor that has a drug screen, if the physician or provider believes that there could be opioid overdose, that the hospital, not a clinic, but the hospital has to conduct if they conduct a urine drug screen, it must include fentanyl. And it looks like the state doesn't want any information, just numbers on how many are positive and how many are negative.
Mhm.
So, Alexa, are you still on?
I am.
I can't see the group because of this thing that's
Let me
still
stop
on the
sharing. I
screen.
apologize.
That's okay. All right, I have a question about that. They're only wanting statistics. So, does this need to be a reportable test? Is this something that the hospitals are to report to the providers or just test and tell the state?
What do you mean report to the providers?
I mean, let's say I do my drug screen that I always do on everybody that comes in and I report it. And then because this is a minor, I go over here and I have a wave test for fentanyl and I test it.
Yes, it should be reported to the providers as well.
Okay.
So I am very early on and new into what they were trying to accomplish by this. And I know OPH is building a database. They have it built. They're just testing it before they send it out to everyone for how to report the results to OPH. I believe it's going to follow the same standard required reporting, same algorithm. I don't know if it's going to be able to be automatically uploaded. Not sure on that part yet. But they're building a reporting system. It's definitely the intent that that's going to be reported to the provider, not screened by the lab and just reported to the state.
Okay. All righty.
So I haven't read it, but does that say those drug screens have to be run if it's a minor, or is it the drug screen has been ordered?
It says if the drug screen has been done. Let me read item A. If a minor is treated at a hospital for a suspected opioid overdose and the hospital conducts a urine drug screen to assist in diagnosing the minor's condition, the hospital shall include testing for fentanyl in the minor's urine drug screen. So if the doctor orders a drug screen and if he thinks there's a suspected opioid overdose, it must include fentanyl. I looked up at my vendor, and they do offer one cup drug screen that, you know, has like 12 on it that includes fentanyl, one. And they offer some individual dipstick type things that are just for fentanyl.
It sounds like they're mimicking California has that requirement, and I think it's Pennsylvania also does.
Yeah, I mean, it's moving for all drug screens to include fentanyl.
Right.
That's been the push from OPH. And I mean, everything's going that direction.
Okay.
The application for how you do that doesn't always necessarily include the lab. I'm sure you guys feel that. And this isn't outside of that. So how you accomplish it, whether it's on a moderate, high complexity instrument or an additional test where you do a cup or a dipstick, is not dictated in this regulation. But all of your drug screens for minors will require fentanyl testing. And if it's positive, I don't think that you report negatives. I think you only.
I think that's correct. They only want positives. So they're really not going to have statistics because they don't have a total.
Just the positive ones.
Yeah. Okay.
I think like the push is encouraging use that for everyone, but they can only require it for minors at this time.
Okay.
And really, that's not in the purview of this committee, right? I mean, yes, it affects the work, the work that we all do, but this committee wouldn't have it.
No, it's not, but it would be something good for us to tell our licensees, you know, that it is required.
I would even venture to say not necessarily the licensee, although many of the people who hold license under this committee are going to be in roles that are impacted by that. But frankly, it's probably more the physicians because they need to be ordering it because the lab can't perform a test that's not ordered. So it really needs to be more on the medical clinical side. I mean, the board notifies physicians and providers of changes in laws that are going to impact them. This kind of seems more applicable to them than the laboratory.
Okay. The revision to our rules, the revision to our law, we'd way back contacted Representative Turner and it didn't proceed in the last session. Where do we stand on that now? The last I heard, I believe Michelle had spoken to him and he told her that he wanted a marked up copy of the law in his hand to see what it was original and what we wanted it to look like. Do we know if he ever got that?
Yes, he did, but he seemed to have misplaced it. I
Let's
delivered
email
it. I didn't email it. I literally brought it to the house I was no longer allowed to go, and I put it in the hands of the people who were going to give it to him. And I don't know, he said he never got it. I believe they gave it to him, but again, I can't verify it. So we're going to work around this. We got some workarounds coming, and I think we're
Did
going to
y'all
make
say
this
Chris
work.
Turner? Is that who it went to? Is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we got some workarounds that that are going to come about, and I think we're going to get this done for you. But like I said, we've always known, got to change the law before we can change the rules.
Okay.
Pat, you want to comment on that in case I just said anything wrong?
No, you're correct. And the reason why we reached out to Representative Turner was because he had familiarity with what we had tried to do the first time around. And so he was very amenable. It just, the staff of the House Health and Welfare, their like literal staff, their attorneys and their legislative drafters and so forth had changed during the year with the new administration. And for whatever reason, just the communication got garbled, the information got garbled. And so I don't think it was ill will or intentional on anybody's part. We certainly thought we had done what we were supposed to do. We were not aware until it was too late to solve anything that he didn't feel, or he was saying that he didn't get what he wanted. So at that point, we just decided to fold the tents and go back another day. And as Dr. Claudia says, we're already in the works, planning the strategy to make sure that someone will introduce it and carry it for us in the next session.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is there a reason why you start in the House as opposed to the Senate?
Well, you just start with a friendly author, and because he had the expertise and had previously handled CLP issues, we thought there was an ease of association there. And frankly, there should have been. It shouldn't have been a sort of a disconnect or a discombobulation, but it doesn't have to be him, and it doesn't have to be the House side. But we have other friendly representatives that we think will have like absolutely zero problem going forward with this for us. And I think that's the direction we're going to go in.
Okay. Are there any other
Wait, I have a
law-affecting-
question. But I have a quick question. So when would we approach either Chris Turner or someone else that's friendly to the committee to ask them to get their staff to start working on, the language for the law, so that, maybe we can have some input and review it and see, is this what we wanted to say, that kind of stuff, instead of waiting until January,
But let me ask you this. Is what you have approved is what you want. We will give them the markup copy, and then they're free to change it to anything they want. We will tell them what we want.
I understand.
But I can't,
Once they
they're
come
gonna,
up with whatever they want, can we look at it again and have some input?
once
you
it's
know-
their property, you won't see it again until it comes to committee.
Well, when we worked on changes to the law before, we worked with Dr. Marier and the lawyer from what was it, Patsy, from Baton Rouge? I can't remember. And they showed it to us, and we worked together on it.
Well,
Right.
again,
Well, look, what we're going to present is what you all asked for, what you requested, and what we wrote up. That's what we're going to present. Presumably our author, the person that we select to sponsor and carry the bill, is going to be on board with that. And if not, of course, we'll have negotiations with you about that in the background. I think what Dr. Van is referring to is once it gets to the committee, you
mean the House and Welfare Committee?
Yeah, Health and Welfare, or
Health and Welfare.
pass the two committees into the floor.
What I'm asking for is, when is this, because, that whole language of writing changes to a law, I'm not a lawyer, but I've seen that, and it's very involved. And when can they start working on it?
We can start that this fall. It's not a problem. The pre-file date, I can't remember what the first pre-file date is, but I'm sure Dr. Van will have that on his to-do list as soon as we're able to start that process. It is not January. It's whenever the first date for pre-filing bills is available. That's on the calendar. I don't have it in front of me, whatever it is for the legislature, but he's going to do all that groundwork ahead of time.
Okay, because it didn't happen the last time, you know.
Let me ask you this. I want to make sure, Angela, you're on board. If we give it to a legislature who says, Dr. Van, I'm taking it just like you gave it to me, as Ms. Wilton's very skilled in writing these things, we're going to put it right there. They may correct the comma period, but I'm not going to change anything else. That's what we get told. You don't want to meet with them anyway?
I would like to see what they are going to read on the floor when they submit the bill.
Stop.
Because it was
Read on the
totally
floor
different.
doesn't happen until it gets out of committee.
No,
No,
listen,
the
what we're
proposal,
gonna do,
Dr. Van.
You mean the first reading or what they vote on?
It gets read several
Okay, you mean the
days
first reading. I
before.
apologize. I
Right,
misunderstood
you're
what you said.
interrupting, okay?
But
Yes.
but again, if it's what we give them and they're not making any changes, you
That's
still
an
want to
if.
meet with
And
them.
my mother used to say, if ifs was gifts, we'd all go rowing. So
Again, I'm going to ask you again. So no matter if they say they're going to take it just like Miss Patricia presents it, you still want to meet with them before it's read.
I don't
But
necessarily say I have to
I don't
meet with
think we're
them. I
meeting.
want to see what they're going to read as the final law changes before it's done.
okay, that's not a meeting. You just want to see what their
Yeah.
product is and compare
Yes,
it to what we
yes,
gave them.
that's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's fine. That's
And I'd like to see it before January or, you know, before it's around time where, you
well,
know.
we don't have control over that, but I assure you it is high on our priority list. It is high on Dr. Van's priority list. We are going to ask a friendly legislator to do this for us. And as early, we don't, you know, it's your priority, it's our priority. It might not be their highest
Okay,
priority.
I understand. I just wanted to say that I would like to see it as soon as possible, earlier than later.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
But we have to realize that we can't be changing what we submitted to them. We can't rewrite what we submitted. If they take it word for word and that's the bill.
Well, they don't.
They certainly
They
didn't the
don't
last
take it
time.
word
We
for
had,
word.
Right.
all it was 2 sentences from the
And
whole
then it
thing
makes
that
it
was
into something
submitted.
completely different.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
was
what
totally
we don't
different.
I
want to
think we'll
happen.
be okay, but honestly, I promise we'll keep you closely advised of anything, as closely as they keep us advised, we will relay that to you as well.
Okay.
Another question, executive session, can that go beyond 5 o'clock?
No.
No, it's an employment, staffing, civil service issue.
So we're
I move
probably,
that we go into executive session to consider those cases.
I second.
okay, so first is Larry, second's Tabitha, and we'll go into executive session.
I do have a question about, I might have missed something. Elizabeth Duck, it looks like she's not on here anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess she was a visitor. I don't know.
Okay, because I don't know her. She's not on the committee, and I don't know how she got on this Zoom.
I had that same question. I assume she was somebody vetted by y'all.
No, I don't know her, and I don't know how she got on this Zoom.
I can do some research and I'll tell you, I was a little late. I was finishing up a IMLCC meeting and another Zoom.
I know Alexa was on and then she was off. She might have been using someone else's phone because I didn't see her name on the list.
But
Yeah,
no,
well,
her name's
you know,
not
in the
on the list, but
future-
her name came up. And she was on for quite a while we were in the meeting.
Again,
Right, but I think
I'll have to do some research to tell you.
Okay, because I don't know who that is.
So just for future, real quick, when you call the roll call, I guess people should, and we used to do that, identify why you're there. You know, are you with?
They weren't here when I
they
did
weren't
roll
here
call.
when we logged on, and that's why I think it was Alexa and she was just using a different phone because now she had to hop off and she's not off anymore. She's not on anymore.
Oh.
It wasn't me.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah, they were not here
I
during
don't know
roll
what
call.
that's about and I don't know who that is. So I'm
I'll,
glad she's
I'll
not
look into it, try and figure
we're
it
going
out.
into executive session. We're
There
good.
was there is an Elizabeth Dock that applied for licensure. She's a generalist and no license was issued.
Oh, well, that's very interesting that she was in our meeting.
Okay. Well, now we're going to executive session. Let's get it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're trying.
So do we have to do something to
No.
get into executive session?
The vote's been taken. I didn't hear the vote to do it.
All those in favor again? Of going to executive session? Aye. Any opposed? No.
Lucinda, make the change, please.
Okay, give me a minute. I'm gonna make it for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we know if we're in executive session right now?
No,
It
you are
said-
not in executive session right now.
Okay, thank
Tracy
you.
is making the changeover. Give us a minute.
Okay,
Up at the top, Larry, it may say this is being live streamed.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Okay, give me a minute. I've been Jacinta's having technical difficulties. I'm trying to help through it.
Guys, the 6 of the 7 investigations did not have case numbers, but those have also, the case numbers have also been put on the cloud. Once we go into executive session, I will give y'all the case numbers as we review each applicant. And then we will report our decisions in open session with those numbers.
Also, Dr. Van or Jacinta, once we get in executive session, can one of you share your screen since we don't have access to the cloud to see what order they're in?
I'll have to get it down off the cloud myself. So give me a minute to get it down off the cloud.
That's why I was giving you a heads up.
No, I'm just gonna make.
She's getting it, guys. She had to reboot.
Y'all want to talk about when we can have another meeting?
If you,
join or not now?
hold on, if you go ahead and press the button at the bottom of your screen, it'll get you there quicker.
That way.
Patsy, press the bottom at the press the bottom of your screen to enter into the breakout room.
I don't know what button.
It should say join breakout room.
I don't see it.
Looks like you have everybody here.
Should I make the motion?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I-
you did.
I move that case number 2024-588 be tabled and all other cases, the committee recommends to follow the recommendation of DOI.
I second.
Who is that? Who's the second?
Tabitha.
Tabitha, okay.
Is Gay here?
Gay is here. Miss Brunson? You're muted.
Hmm.
Here she is.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's back.
you're muted.
I was just talking away. Sorry about that. All those in favor of accepting Larry's motion to accept the DOI recommendations and tabling case 2024-588, say aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion carries. We had two more items on the agenda. Do we have time to jump on those or do we need to stop?
Let's lay them over. When do you want to meet again?
A Tuesday or Thursday works best.
Tuesday or Thursdays are
I
best.
found with just looking at when we've tried to have them, a Tuesday or Thursday.
Let's shoot for somewhere in October. We should have the information from Dr. Van and the committee can review the requirements and come back and discuss that.
Okay.
Anybody have a day that's good or not good in October?
Uh,
Why don't we do it October 1st?
is that
Well,
a Tuesday or Thursday?
Do it Thursday, October 3rd. That's fine too.
Okay,
Let's shoot for October 3rd.
third?
October 3rd.
Number three.
Okay, October,
10/3/24.
got it. Okay. And that'll be at 3 PM,
Let's start at 2:30 so we don't have any trouble.
2:30. Does that work for y'all?
Send out a email to everybody and make sure we can attend, get a
Yeah.
quorum.
What we'll do is we'll send the invites out in the next 48 hours
Okay,
for
Right.
October 3rd at 2:30 PM.
okay. All
Do
right.
we have time to hit these two other items real quick or do we need to adjourn?
I would prefer you adjourn because I got a guard sitting in the office I got to send home and stop paying overtime.
All righty. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
That's Angela. Do I get second?
Second.
Nadlin?
Adlin.
Thank you. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank y'all very much. The meeting is adjourned.
And
at